Alright, so this is the last lesson of my course on how to crochet a raglan style sweater from the top down. And you can see I'm not behind a desk, and actually you probably can't see me much at all except for maybe my legs and my hands. So I have my sweater done. I have woven in all of my ends. And I have checked to make sure that I didn't have any other ends, so I flipped it inside out, or right side out. And so I just wanted to make sure that I didn't have any other ends that I needed to weave in before I wash it. So I am using some new tools that you would need to block your sweater. I have not yet washed my sweater. So what you need to properly block a sweater is, or really any garment, is blocking boards or a blocking mat. You can use foam, sometimes you can use a bunch of old towels that you fold up twice. And you're going to need some pins. So I'm going to be using T-pins. And the other thing that you're going to need is a fabric tape measure. This is another one that I have. I love this kind because they don't really get in the way. They're all self-contained. So when you block your sweater, you're going to want to make sure that your measurements stay the same. So what you want to do is just make some notes of like how wide you wanted this. So I wanted my chest, when it's all flat, 18 inches wide. I'm going to want to make sure that I get that down here at the bottom, which I don't currently have, which is okay. We'll get that once I've washed it. You want to make sure that your arms stay the right length. So you're going to want to measure that, and you want to make sure that each arm is the same as the other one. And up here at the neck, you're going to want to make sure that that is perfectly straight. And that doesn't shrink either. So I'm going to go wash my sweater, and I'm going to tell you how to do that. First, you want to do a sink or a bathtub, if it's a small bathtub, or a bucket filled with warm, like hot, as hot as you can stand it, water, and some dish soap. Just a hint of dish soap. Or you can use a wool wash. Anything that's good for delicate fibers, and you're going to hand wash it. You're just going to put it in the hot water, let it soak, and you don't want to agitate it at all so you don't felt the fiber, because this is wool. This is 100% wool yarn that I'm using. After you do that part, you're going to dump that water out, put more hot water in with a little bit of vinegar. And what that vinegar is going to do is it's going to close up the scales that are on the actual individual fibers of the yarn, and that'll make the yarn a little bit softer, so it'll be nicer against the skin. Because again, this is 100% wool, and wool can sometimes be a little itchy. After the vinegar bath, I am going to rinse out the vinegar, that way it doesn't smell like vinegar when I wear it. So you're going to want to do, again, like a lukewarm bath or something, and you want to handle it as little as possible. You don't want to be moving this around very much because it will felt and shrink. So the whole purpose of washing it is to get it clean and to get it soft again and to make the stitches more even. It is not to resize any of this. So I'll be back, and I'll show you how to properly block a sweater. Alright, so I have taken my sweater out of my hand washing. One thing to remember is that you don't want to agitate the fiber when you are washing it. A lot of people think that the reason woolens shrink in the washing machine is because of the hot water, and it's not about the heat so much as it's about the agitation inside the washing machine that causes the fibers to shrink together. So I gently squeezed out my sweater. You don't want to wring out your sweater because that will stretch it. And it could potentially give you some problems later when you're trying to block it. So the great thing about blocking and washing your sweater is that the fibers relax quite a bit. And you can really tell that the fabric is a little bit more flexible. So what I'm doing now is I am trying to gently stretch my fabric into shape. I don't want to agitate much because my fabric is still wet. I tried to get as much fiber or water out of my fiber as I could, but again, I don't want to agitate it much. So these blocking mats you can get at most yarn stores, either online or in person. And they are fantastic for the purpose of blocking any item. So this is a set of 9 that I got at my local yarn store down in Denver. And it's perfect for a sweater. I might need to get another set if I want to do a large shawl. But right now it's actually pretty perfect for a sweater. So you want to get your garment or project into place a little bit before you start pinning. So I have my T-pins here, and I think I'm going to start pinning from the bottom and then go up to the top. So I'm just going to get a couple ready. You will notice that your project is probably shedding a little bit. So what happens when your sweater or when your fiber is in hot water, it's actually going to relax, and a lot of those ends just kind of pop out of the twist of the yarn. So you're going to pin, let's see, just the edges first. And then we're going to move down here and make sure that you're not stretching too much. So I like to try and square up the edges. So I'll bring my tape measure up to the center here. And keep pinning. So yeah, the fibers stretch a little bit because they're relaxed. I'm just going to make sure I'm not shrinking that portion too much. And I'm not. So you're just going to pin your way across, making sure that your edges are straight. And that you're getting your measurement. If you're noticing any stretching or stress along the edge of your project, it means that you have it pulled too tight. And that can cause puckering and weird things to happen when you try to wear it later. You could actually have some problems. Okay, so I think I'm going to move up to the neckline here. And this one, it's pretty important to make sure that everything is in the right spot. So when I crocheted that border, it actually pulled in a little bit. And I don't want that, so I want to make sure that everything is even. And then I'm going to pull it up a little bit. Want to make sure that the top is nice and flat. So my shoulders are kind of off the mat, that's okay. I'm more concerned about the actual sleeves than the shoulder of the sleeves. So it looks like my arms got a little stretched out as far as the long ways goes. So I'm just going to widen my sleeves a little bit and then check again, and that looks about right. Still slightly stretched, but some of this will change once I get the sweater on, so it's not that detrimental. So with some fiber, it's not necessary to block it, and I would actually go so far as to say, as right now as I'm working, this is all laying pretty flat and it's not changing much, but pinning and blocking does ensure that you're going to get a good fit. So I'm going to move on to the other side. And it looks like I had the same issue on this sleeve as I did the other sleeve. So I'm just gonna gently tug and stretch out the width of my sleeve. And what that does is that shrinks the spaces between the rows, so it brings it together. And I'll check my measurement. Alright, so that was the same as my other measurement. So I'm just going to pin right there, pin right here. Remember to keep straight lines. And then down here at the wrist, I want to be very careful. It actually looks on that side. I'm going to just double check my measurement of my wrist. Yep. So I just want to stretch out my wrist a little bit. Not much. Alright, so you want to leave your garment or your sweater to dry for, well, as long as it takes to dry. So if you're in a very humid climate, it's going to take a lot longer than if you're in a dry climate like here in Colorado. It does help to keep this away from kids and pets as it's drying. You don't really want to run the risk of them snagging it or hurting themselves on the pins. So that concludes this portion of the lesson, and I'll come back when it's all dry. Alright, so congratulations, you have finished your sweater by this point. As you can see, mine has dried. It is perfectly blocked, and it looks like a perfect fit. So even the sleeves fit, they're a little bit long, and the whole outfit fits for me. So thank you so much for watching this course on how to crochet a Raglan style sweater, and I hope you keep an eye out for more courses and lessons in the future. So keep on hooking.